On this episode of China Uncensored, China calls to reduce tensions on the Korean Peninsula and to prepare for war, just in case. Hi, welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. You know, when I heard that North Korea conducted its fourth nuclear test in January, I thought, now's the perfect time to come to South Korea. That's why I'm here, overlooking the border between North Korea and South Korea. With tensions rising, this could become a flashpoint for war. And not just between two countries, but four. North Korea, South Korea, China, and America. The relationship between these countries is complicated, to put it mildly. Everyone knows North Korea is run by a cruel, oppressive regime. I mean, look at it. Seriously, it's right over there. Anyway, even though North Korea supposedly has a scary military, that doesn't mean it has a strong one. But no one actually wants the North Korean regime to collapse. Imagine millions of refugees streaming across the border into South Korea or China. Who would take in those tired, poor, huddled masses yearning to breathe free? Probably not. So the order of the day is to just prevent North Korea from launching any nuclear weapons, while at the same time hoping it magically transforms itself into a democracy somehow. They could call it the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. What's that, Shelley? Oh. Anyway, everyone is preparing for the worst, especially after North Korea followed up its nuclear test by launching that long-range rocket on February 7th. And celebrating it in the creepiest way possible. In this editorial by my favorite Chinese state-run media, the Global Times, the author says that China should prepare for a war. Even though there is a very low probability that a war will occur, China should be 100% prepared. Meanwhile, South Korea and the U.S. are talking about setting up a terminal high-altitude area defense system in South Korea. It would launch missiles like this, which could shoot a North Korean ballistic missile out of the air, including one carrying a nuclear warhead. Previously, South Korea had rejected using the U.S. military's THAAD. What changed their minds? Oh, right. But China strongly opposes the use of THAAD. They say it threatens China's national security, which would be true if China fought alongside North Korea in a war against South Korea and the United States, like they did in what they still call the War to Resist U.S. Aggression and Aid Korea. But no one wants Korean War II, or World War III, which is why the U.S. wants to put THAAD in place as quickly as possible. Because the U.S. and South Korean governments see it as a deterrent, as well as a useful but hopefully never used defense. China also hopes it never gets used, because that could be the first step in destabilizing North Korea. Not that China actually likes North Korea, they just enjoy the political power it gets from a rogue state. That's why the Chinese Communist Party is propping up the North Korean regime by giving it weapons and aid. China is also North Korea's largest trading partner by far, on the order of more than $5 billion a year. And China is also the main way North Korea evades international sanctions. So by putting itself in this position, the CCP is forcing the rest of the world to come to it for help. But this strategy may come back to bite them. For one, North Korea is becoming harder for China to control. They couldn't stop them from launching the long-range rocket, even though they tried. And now, other countries are taking actions that could hurt China. For instance, the U.S. just passed new sanctions against North Korea, including sanctions against Chinese companies that do business with North Korea. Plus, the THAAD missile defense system does shift the balance of military power in the region, and not in China's favor. But the whole missile testing, exploding nukes is really just a way for Kim Jong-un to consolidate his power, because his youthful good looks won't last forever. So, will there be war on the Korean Peninsula? I don't plan to stick around long enough to find out. What's that, Matt? What do you mean we're going to North Korea? Are Chinese tourists invading South Korea?